Hey, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of Get the Flick Out of Here. Our first one was so wildly successful that I'm sure there will be many, many thousands of episodes to come.
Yes.
Um, with me, as always, is the wonderful Kate Elizabeth. I'm your host, co host. Guess we're doing this together, let's be honest.
Yeah, but
I'm
like,
Alex Pawlowski, and we talked about the courtship for our first episode. But mostly, we talked about just our experiences with reality TV and weirdness. Now it's basically also reality TV, but it's also competition TV and food TV. So it's like all the things.
Alex,
It is
is
yes.
it reality food competition television or is
Is
it
it
cake?
cake? Because this we're talking about the new Netflix show. Is it cake? And you have to do it like that because that's how Mikey Day, the host of the show, says it literally every time. It's only slightly annoying after the third time he does it, and then it gets progressively more annoying. But still, yes, in case you needed to see a show about people who bake cake and shape it into things that cake should not look like, hosted by the third most talented dude, white guy on Saturday Night Live. This is the show for you.
Okay, so Mikey Day, I'll say right off the bat, the first couple episodes, I was like, this is rough.
Yeah.
And then he really started to settle in. I
Yeah, he
felt
did.
like
He
he
did.
really grew into it.
He did, and I think that the thing about it is obviously they're recording all this during the pandemic, so there's no
Yes.
studio audience.
Of course
So
not.
he's literally performing comedy for the 8 people who are competing for the show, and that's a hard audience to like get them to laugh at your stuff because they're all so nervous about winning money and winning this whole
Yeah.
thing. So it's so I honestly think he did an admirable job. My favorite thing was that when he would ride the cake wall. There's a
It's the
big it's a
best.
big stage thing that like turns around and he would ride the cake. He called it the cake wall out of frame, and he would every time he was like, "Oh no, I seem to have fallen into the gears. Oh,
It
it hurts
felt
so terribly."
yeah,
I thought that was kind of funny.
it was really fun because the cake wall gimmick felt very um to me very like old game show
Yeah.
like match game when they would like turn
Yes.
podiums around or whatever, like that felt very
Agreed.
fun. And then he
Yeah.
just was like, I'm gonna destroy this nostalgic moment in time for you in this
Yeah.
fun way. So I really appreciated that, and I appreciated the cake wall quite a bit because, like, let's be honest, there's not it's not a
No.
complex show.
No.
It's not a the set designers didn't have like a hard time putting this one together. It's basically pedestals for things that look like cake
Mm,
or things that don't look like cake and a cake
right.
that looks like not a cake.
So
Um,
yeah, we should
and
probably
lighting.
explain, like, if you don't know the conceit of this, this was a thing that went around a couple of years ago, where there was like pictures of random things
And I
that had
think
been
this was
baked.
like a segment. My sister told me this. I don't know this, but my sister was very into British Bake Off. And I
Oh,
think they did this as like a one episode one off or a
mm,
segment on another baking show. And
mm.
that was the first time I've ever heard of like I think a spin-off
Right?
of a baking show, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah. Um, but a while ago, there were pictures floating on the internet of this is not a shoe, this is cake. And they're like, wait a minute, that's not right. And honestly, I feel like the pictures are doctored to make them look less like cake and more like the thing. But they're still our cake or whatever. This actually being able to watch how they put it together and how they make it to look like a regular thing, but it's not, it's cake, is kind of amazing. The level of artistry and sculpting that goes into it.
It
So
on a
anyway,
time frame. Like it's
right,
that's nuts to me.
right. So we very briefly meet our contestants to start out with, and the way that they do it to begin with, to like get the whole thing started, is a a process that is not repeated ever again in the entire 8 episodes. It's like, all of you, what is the thing that is one of these things is cake, and they show them a bunch of stuff, and all of them have to guess which one is cake and which and whatever, and then the one that is cake, whatever one's actually guess it correctly, can be on the first episode. And that was just a random thing. It's just like, it's a completely different thing. It's you being able to recognize your artistry in somebody else's art, is an interesting little part of this. Yes, but it was just randomly these 3 people who did the first episode. And the first episode was fast food. These things you would find in a fast food restaurant or whatever. I forget what was the fake one in that particular opening thing, but 3 of them got it right. Everyone else got it wrong. So the one that got it right the fastest or whatever got to pick, among all of these things in front of you, which one do you want to replicate as cake? And so I think the first 3 were Johnny, bespectacled, very gay Johnny. And then Sam, who I liked a lot. She just seemed like very
I loved Sam.
I thought she was really cool. She was just like a regular gal.
Yeah.
Like just always in jeans. Just very just a very simple type of person. I did not, of all the people who were on the show, she seemed like the one that would be the least into doing this as a thing. Like, just looking at her and her whole vibe, I was like, if you was like, okay, you have a million guesses. What does this person do for a living? Making fake cakes or whatever would never have been a guess, ever.
Yeah, she seemed like she had a very healthy relationship with the show to me.
Yes.
She seemed like healthfully detached. Like, hey, if I win a bunch of money, great. If not, fine. I'm here baking cakes.
And I believe the 3rd on the first episode was Hemu, who is this woman who I believe is Hindi, an immigrant. Seems like a lovely woman. And then they hear. So here's the pick. Here's your pick of things. What can you make? And Johnny decides to make tacos, and that did not look like plausible to me that you could make tacos look like cake that looks like tacos, because the tacos have to be separate from each other, but also cake. And that was a very odd thing. And then Hemu picked a croissant which is really hard to do the flaky stuff, like in not actually have it be a croissant. And then Sam picked a burger. So they have 8 hours every episode to bake the cake and make it look like the thing it's supposed to be, while everybody else just sits there and I guess probably talks amongst themselves. Every episode is 37 minutes long.
Yes. And like when you say like the peanut gallery, it's the other bakers.
Yes.
And my whole thing was like, they probably like go out and get lunch or whatever, but you're absolutely right that this was filmed during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So like there was probably nowhere that they could really go or do anything.
Catering? Like go back to catering and sit in catering and wait, like play Go Fish, like 8 hours. The bakers actually need all of that time to get their thing done, but like just sitting around watching somebody bake and sculpt cake into whatever maybe it's because I'm not one of those people, but like it would just, because it also they're far enough back from what's going on, they can't like actually watch the artistry of somebody sculpting. So it's weird. The
8-hour thing also made me really appreciate Mikey Day even more. I'm like, that guy had to keep his energy up for 8 hours a day for this.
Well, he gets to go back to his trailer, I'm sure, for like 6 of the 8 hours. Probably
true.
He's probably playing PlayStation back there. He's just having a blast. So then they make it. They do this whole thing, and part of what they do is they have to pick real versions of the thing that they are making to set up a series of decoys and then their own actual thing that is cake. So that the judges have something to pick. One of the things I love that Johnny did was that the tomatoes that he made that didn't look like real tomatoes, so he scrapped them from his own fake taco.
Sneaky, yes.
He took those obviously fake looking tomatoes and spread them out onto real tacos to make those tacos look fake. And those were the tacos the judges picked as being the cake. Now, I was like, first of all, I was like, that should be illegal. That's cheating. And yet it's not illegal, so it's brilliant.
Yes.
Like, I thought that was cool, and that's how Johnny won. And the judges actually picked the cake for both Sam and Hamu. Like, they actually picked the real one, which I was not anticipating.
We should talk about the judges they have to lock in one answer for 3 judges.
That's right. And they have 20 seconds to just from, I don't know, 20 feet away.
Distance, yeah.
From 20 feet away, they're looking at 5 things. And
with
one of those
kind of like lighting that is in
the lighting was kind to the bakers. Some of the lighting was very kind.
Especially in the first like episode or 2, because I feel like it got adjusted a little bit later.
But yeah, so the judges were actually able to pick the actual cake burger and the actual cake croissant, which means that Sam and Hamu were out for that episode.
Correct.
But Johnny won.
And I love Johnny.
Yeah, he was like, I am this is the pandemic, so I spent a lot of time at home. I am also painfully single, so I've been baking for one. And I was like, oh, you seem like a catch, Johnny. Like, you seem like a catch.
You were so cute.
Anyway, so he wins, and then part of what you do is at the end, it's like, is it cake or is it cash? And they have 2 options. Okay, this thing it's a cake that has fake money coming out the top of it, some kind of receptacle. I think in the first one it was like a burlap sack or something. And then there's another one that is actually a burlap sack full of actual cash. And you have to pick the one that is cake. The person who was
the person that
the
just
baker.
won.
Yeah. And he didn't get it right the first time. Or did he? No, he did right. He did get it right the first time. But then, like, the winners of the next episodes or whatever, if you don't get it right, that money, the $5,000 you win on top, rolls over. And so that's how people wind up getting the best money. And so that's
a fun little twist.
Yeah. And that's basically how the first few episodes go. Except for the idea that if you win, you get to stay on and bake again the next episode, like on Jeopardy, our returning champion.
Yes.
But then you get to pick the people of the other bakers to go against you. So I guess the idea would be that you would pick people that you think you could easily beat so you could win more prize money.
Unless you're a baby face.
Right. But they wanted people, I think, to be dicks to each other, and they weren't. They were all very supportive and lovely individuals. There was nobody in there, not even Steve, who I'm still sure is a plant from the FBI. Like, of all the people, I know I said Sam didn't seem like she would do it. Steve seemed like he would do it because it was a challenge that he thought he could master, because he's a super type A, and like I've already mastered these 12 hobbies. Now I shall try my hand at baking sculpture. Like, that's what he felt like to me. Or, as I said, a plant from the FBI. Because this dude was so, like, straight-laced and down the middle. And you had another guy on the show, just for example, who was basically big, like, fat, super gay, green-haired Beetlejuice. Like, that's who that guy was, and he was my favorite dude in the whole show. So, like, I'm not throwing shade at Andrew. Andrew's awesome. Like that guy was
I
my
did
favorite.
not love Andrew.
I loved Andrew, but
Of
like the whole
course
thing was
you
like Andrew made sense as being part of the show. Steve did not.
Steve, yeah, Steve was an outlier, I would say. Johnny, I loved because even when he wasn't baking, he was like in the peanut gallery,
Yes.
just like yucking it
Yep.
up.
Yep.
He was also much like Sam, very like lovingly detached. Like, if I
Yep.
win a bunch of money, great. But I've also been on these other. He was on like a bunch of other
Yeah.
cooking or baking shows rather before. And he was just like having fun and swerving people.
Mhm.
So unbelievably Team Johnny.
Yeah.
Steve looked like, yeah, like he. That's funny you said like he mastered like 12 other hobbies, because I felt like he was like not master 12 other hobbies. This is the only thing he's ever done, and his parents beat him into it. And there's no joy in it for him. Like, it was like you will be like a Russian gymnast.
You find out later that he like runs a culinary school. Like, so that dude's a ringer. Like, if you bring in somebody who runs a culinary school, he's not like, hey, you know, I love sweets. I got a real sweet tooth. Also, I was an art major. Yeah, like no. This dude's a ringer. But he wasn't in episode 2. Episode 2, Johnny picked Nina and April to do it was the fashion one. And Johnny picked the bucket hat, and the whole thing fell apart on him. Poor guy. Like, it was just not working out for him. They were like trying to make fabric out of cake, and that, I don't know how that works. Didn't seem to work out for him. But somehow he faked out the judges by putting metal grommets in his cake to make it look like a bucket hat. That was what fooled the judges. But the winner was Nina, who made a clutch, and like big ups to her. Like, she put real stitching and made the whole thing look like leather or whatever. It was great.
That like ran through were insane.
Yeah, were really, really great.
Good.
So she won that, and then the third episode was Stuff That You Would Find at the Beach, and that was where Nina. There was, I forget who was in that one. But anyway, I'm gonna look it up. But it was but that was where Desiree was in it, and she had to do the bucket with the sand. And
this was something I learned too. The simpler the thing is, sometimes it's the trickiest one, because just like one small little flaw will screw up your day. Also, while you're looking that up, I will say the panel of judges rotates, which I find very fun.
Yes.
And everybody has like a different thing. So there's usually someone like from the fashion world, someone from the food world, and then like a journalist or something. And it was just fun seeing like nobody could like get comfortable catching on to what was cake and what wasn't. Like,
yes,
it was a nice little a nice gimmick. But yeah.
And every time, because there were new judges, when like the cake wall would spin around and show them 5 things, and one of them is cake, they'd all be like, "This is wizardry."
Yeah,
what are
they
you
were all
talking
like,
about?
"This is
so, like,
insane."
the first 10 seconds of their 20 seconds is like,
holy shit!
I'm pretty sure none of these things are cake. Like, and it was that was great. So I am not able to find out who, because this days ago I binged all of it back to back to back, so everything running together. So I'm going to try and find out who it was. But this is, I think, around this time is where like Andrew becomes the main character, because he just keeps winning. And he runs his speciality is like spooky and horror cakes or whatever.
Yeah, they're insane.
And they're really, really, really good.
Like, to bake like a thing that looks like an organ is nuts to me.
Yes. He won episode 3, but I can't remember how he won it or what he won with.
Did he win with the bucket because he did the recycling thing? Or no, that was the solo cup.
No, he did that with that was one of the other ones he won. But this goes on a streak. He wins like 3 in a row. But he's got these novelty glasses, and he runs his shop in Des Moines, Iowa, which like I feel like his type of people are outlawed in Iowa, or if not, they're not. They will be soon, which is unfortunate for him because he seems like a lovely individual to me anyway. Like I came of age in the theater world, and every production I worked on had a guy like Andrew, not fully like Andrew, but like the costume designer or what they call the draper, the guy who would like you go in and get your costume fit, and the guy who puts it on you and actually like measures and all that kind of stuff, that's the draper, or the person who's designing the set or whatever. There'd always be like the very, very flamboyantly gay but super artistic and brilliant guy like that, and you'd I don't know if the word is put up with the eccentricities, but they would always be a part of who they are authentically to get to this artistic brilliance that they had. And so I kind of like said, I would have absolutely after rehearsals gone out to the bar and just found a table and sat and just talked with Andrew for hours. Like he seems like that kind of guy who would be so much fun to talk to about all kinds of like old horror movies and weird stuff. Obviously Beetlejuice, because he has Beetlejuice pants, and so you don't wear Beetlejuice pants unless you can quote Beetlejuice. And if you are a person who quotes Beetlejuice on the regular, you and me are going to have a grand old time, because that's just the kind of thing that I'm into. So I really enjoyed him, and he not only is he again eccentric, but he's really friggin' good at it. Like he's really good at doing this, and he did one where he made the challah bread, and they
Oh my
with
god,
he
insane.
made the edible cellophane to wrap up everything with, and like it was really, really excellent work that he did with that episode. And then the solo cups, which just seems impossible to make the right kind of sheen and everything, but he made those work as well. He just kept fooling the judges over and over again. But I became a big fan of his going forward. There was also Justin, who missed his high school graduation
And
to be there, so they had like,
him a mini
and
graduation.
they threw him a mini graduation party, which was really
It was
cute
so
and
cute.
fun.
And he was like a wonderkin, especially for like to even be
yeah.
pursuing that.
Yes,
I had different feelings about Andrew. I found him
I know you did.
well, I appreciated his authenticity. I was just like, oh my god, go to therapy. Like I was like, take some of your prize money and go to therapy, dude. I have an incredible amount of empathy for anybody who is in the Midwest and as eccentric as he is, and he's an incredibly skilled baker. But I just felt like, I think because I watched it all in a 24-hour period, I was like, all right, enough. Like, we get it. Like, because here's the thing, like it or don't, somebody with a personality like that is a big personality.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a large dose of it all at once. I think maybe if I had seen it, but it did grow on me as he kept winning. And oh my god, is he skilled? Like I was so blown away by how skilled these bakers were. Like
Yeah.
sincerely, you were, before we got on here, you were like, I appreciate the art of what they do and also the art of deception. Which
Yes.
is like the perfect synopsis for the show, I think.
Yeah.
But it while I was like kind of found it a little grating, I did have an incredible appreciation for probably like just what he's up against in an everyday life situation. Because if you're living in Des Moines, and I mean probably even artistic, you're a weirdo there, never mind the fact that like he's definitely gay and
Right.
up against the current climate of things. So I don't know if I would have gone out to a bar with him after, but I would have given him a huge hug.
Yeah. So by the time episode 4 comes around, which is the one where they did stuff like from the grocery store. So like
such a good
that
episode.
was when Steve got to bake, and he like picked the produce, which is like purple cauliflower, a horned melon, and asparagus, and you got to make cake look like vegetables, which I think should be a crime, personally. Personally, speaking as a fat person, do not disguise. Actually, it should be the other way around. If you make vegetables look like cake, and I think I'm getting cake, but it tastes like vegetables, I'm going to commit a crime. Like I'm going.
The other way around is great.
Yeah.
The other way,
Yeah,
you're like, oh, I signed
that's
up to
true.
eat vegetables. You're like,
But then
turns
no,
out.
but then I'm not going to eat the cake. I'm going to walk right by the cake. I'm not going to eat it. Actually, here's a weird thing. Here's the weird thing about me. Not a fan of cake. It's true.
What?
It's true. Like of all of the like, I don't know,
Dessert?
normal dessert foods or whatever, cake low on the list for me. Like
what are your tops?
Well, I always go for a birthday pie. I will always go for a birthday pie over cake. Like anytime back when I was working in offices, anytime there was like, hey, there's cake in the break room, I will skip the break room. To me, like cake, because I obviously have a problem with sugars. So, like to me, like if there's a time where I can just make sure like that is not going to give me diabetes this week, cake was it. Because like I know I'm not going to enjoy it all that much. I'm going to go ahead and refrain from the cake, because cake, like the cake these people are making would probably make me change my mind, because some of the flavors also beyond them sculpting the cakes and making them look like stuff, they're also making the most amazing tasting versions of cake. Like
which was the tiebreaker, right?
And if more than one person fooled the judges, then the judges had to go based on the tiebreaker was how does it taste and how detailed is it really?
Because they got to look at it close up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like there's some of the flavors, for example, Sam, I think one time made strawberry Pop-Tart cake with literal like chunks of strawberry Pop-Tarts in a strawberry flavored cake. I'm like, you can give me that whole cake and I'm going to eat that. Cause like, that's I'm all like devil's food. You can keep it. I'm not a chocolate guy. Like that's not a thing. So every time I would go, and if the break room, like, oh, there's chocolate cake in the break room. Like there's less, there's so many things you could tell me are in the break room that would get me in the break room more than chocolate cake.
I'll say this. I love a good cake, but like the sheet cake from ShopRite or whatever isn't my jam.
It's not worth the sugar intake for me.
It's not, but those like the standard like ShopRite cookies that are the same deal with like an insane amount of frosting, like I'll go for those any day.
I have a weakness for cookies. Like, but not like not the little shortbread cookies with the icing on top. Like, you can keep those. But like the perfect chewiness of like a chocolate chip cookie, like those that you get from the grocery store.
You're
like
so happy talking about this right now.
That's like I love cookies. I love cookies. I love pie. I love cookies more.
Okay, let's rank them. Ready? Cookies, pie, cupcakes, regular cakes, eclairs. I'll just go donut family.
Donut, yeah, because
and cannoli.
Honestly, it'll vary widely depending on the donut.
That's fair.
If you stuff a donut, I'm not eating that donut. You can get whatever the hell's in that donut.
Really?
The hell out. No.
Not even like a Boston cream situation.
No.
I don't fuck with jelly donuts, but Boston cream all day.
I will do a jelly donut if it's good jelly, way over a cream. Like
really?
No cream. No, because I mean, like my it's so funny. It is so funny. This is the thing. When I was younger, my dad I literally ran marathons. Like he would go out and like when I was a little boy. And so he would go out and train to run marathons really early on Saturday mornings. And he would come back from going to train to run marathons, bringing home to his young son a box of donuts. So it's like you're sabotaging me from the beginning. Like here you go, so Dad's home and he brought this wonderful sweet thing that I get to eat. And at 8, it's fine. But at 8, you develop habits that last you into your 40s, and this is the problem for me currently.
And like what a cruel dissociation of like, oh, these donuts and this healthy. Here's my thing
dad
about
runs marathons and he comes home and like cuts like a single old-fashioned donut in half and eats that. Meanwhile, it's like, well, I don't mind if I do. Like,
yeah.
I'm just
Especially at 8, forget about it because you're not thinking about consequences.
no.
I have a thing about marathons, and this is of no offense to your dad. If the first guy to do it,
hold on. You go ahead. We're gonna say more. You gotta go into this. We're gonna go on this tangent. I love where it's taking us. I love everything about it.
We'll get back to is it cake.
I love that this show is in no way about anything other than just us talking.
No,
about
we don't.
Whatever.
That's not what we do.
No.
The whole thing about marathons is the first guy to ran one died.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's really dumb to just start emulating behaviors.
So true.
That like the moral of the story is the guy died.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh cool, let's do a crash a plane a thought. Like, no, like what are you doing? I feel like it's very silly to be like, let's run the exact amount of miles that kill a man.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
That's egregious.
Well, it was called a marathon because it was running from a specific point to a town called Marathon.
Right.
And it was 26.2 miles
like,
from wherever the hell they were to Marathon, which is why all marathons are now 26.2 miles.
That guy urgently had to deliver news, and the old story goes, he delivered that news and dropped dead.
Yep.
That doesn't seem like, let's replicate that behavior. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah. It wasn't like my dad was like going to be in the Olympics or anything. It was just a thing he liked to do with his buddies, which is to go out running for a very long time.
I'm sure your dad's a wonderful man, but I would not be able to hang out with him.
He's more like Steve than he is like Andrew. I'll tell you that. He's a type A.
This is like the Sex and the City quizzes that would be like, I'm such a Miranda. I'm such a Samantha. Yeah. Are you a Steve or are you a Johnny or are you an Andrew or are you a Sam? Wait, okay. So your favorites of everything.
Okay.
Cookies, donuts, cake, cupcake. Pie. Pie's
like a really good
the pie. Best of everything I just
like the oh man. Is the best cookie better than the best pie? Is a really, really, really good question. Because I think there are more pies that are better than most cookies. But I think the best cookie is better than the best pie.
Okay. Respect. I asked the hard-hitting questions.
Yes. Listen, I have to qualify it. I can't just say, oh, I'm ranking everything. We gotta qualify these things. No.
The best of everything.
Right. I guess I probably prefer cake over cupcakes because the thing I like least about cake is icing. And like there's so much icing on cake. It's just extra stuff. Like I like
extra sugar, you maniac.
I know, but like it's that thing of like I've kind of trained myself to like say, okay, that I can say no to. Like if somebody were to, for example, back in my going to the office days, bring a tray of cookies into the to the break room. Well, either I would go there, make sure no one was around, and take a dozen of those cookies with me. or I would just keep coming back 12 times over the course of a day, because those are cookies. But I would stay away from the break room if it was cake. Like these are the things that we got to do. Like, it's different. Now, if we're putting in like breakfast pastries into the like a Danish or a cinnamon roll, like a really good gooey cinnamon roll, that might be tops.
Wow. Okay. Before we get back to the show, top cookie, favorite cookie of all time. I know the Oreo thing, but I'm talking baked.
My favorite cookie of all time was baked by a version of an Andrew that I knew, an actor named Giuseppe, who loved to bake, was an actor first, but also just loved to bake in his free time. And he, for my birthday, made me cookies. We all lived in the same, when we were all interns at the Milwaukee Repertory Theater. We all had our own little rooms in this like old hotel. It was all paid for by the company, and they all this tiny little oven, and he made these. Like, he allowed me to pick all the ingredients or whatever, and it was like the chocolate and also white chocolate chips, peanut butter, crushed up Oreos, all these different versions of things I could put in there, and I would like make different things, whatever. And they came out, and I don't know if it was like the amount of butter that he used in the batter or what, but they never dried out. Like they were as moist 3 days later as they were coming out of the oven. Like it was just, they were so good. And they were made with love by a friend of mine for my birthday. So like that probably put them over the top. But like I've never been able to, in my own baking, never been able to like replicate the kind of moistness. Although I will tell you this, and this is something that I learned, I don't know if everybody knows this. Most cookies will dry out very quickly when they come out of the oven or whatever. When you put them, take them off the sheet, put them somewhere to store them for a couple of days, put in the little Tupperware or whatever with them a slice of bread.
Yes, I was just gonna say that.
I had no idea. Something I got into my 30s before I found out about. Now I will take store-bought cookies out of the sleeve, put them in a Tupperware with a slice of bread, and all of a sudden they become so much better.
It's incredible. A fun little trick. Favorite donut?
Probably a bakery in New York that like was like, that looks like a good donut, and boy howdy was it. Like it was just very simple. A little dusting of confectioner's sugar. Like it was, because I'm a simple guy when it comes to donuts.
Okay.
So it was like an old fashioned. So it had just the perfect amount of crunch on the outside and a nice, thick, like soft center, but like a dusting of confectioner's sugar, a little bit of cinnamon. It was nice. But it was also fresh from the oven, or I guess fryer or whatever. But like it was just melted within the mouth.
We actually, I don't know why this came up on our earlier show, but strawberry rhubarb for the pie, but it has to be your grandmother's strawberry rhubarb, right?
Yeah. I would say the very best was that. But there's a place, near where I lived before I moved here, a place called the Elegant Farmer, that like specialized in like gourmet pies. Like go there and you get a pie, and it comes in the pie tin inside like a paper bag that they wrap it up right after it comes out of the oven, and for some reason it seals in all the awesomeness. But there's a strawberry peach pie you can get there. A 12-inch strawberry peach pie from the Elegant Farmer will run you $45. And it is worth every penny of that $45.
I love it. And closing out, favorite cupcake and cake.
I don't know,
If you had to pick
the
one.
cupcakes we had at our wedding were pretty good. They were cookies and cream cupcakes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, with little crushed up Oreos in them and stuff.
Fair enough. Back to the show.
This is how we pad the runtime, people. Anyway, once everybody had a chance to bake, then it was like, okay, well, here you go. Now, the winners of the next 3 episodes get into the final episode where you can win $50,000. You have to win these next 3 episodes, win each episode. So because Andrew was on a 3 episode win streak, he gets to go in the 2 episode win streak, and he gets to go into this one, and he picked the other 2 winners,
Which
Nina
I
and Johnny.
respected so
And I was
much.
like, whoa, like that took balls. Like there were people who legitimately did not fool the judges. And the point of this thing is to get in the final episode so you can win $50,000. Like you should like it makes sense to pick the worst people so that you can guarantee yourself a shot at $50,000. He picked the people who had already won. I guess the idea was if I can beat them, nobody stands a chance against me in the final episode.
I also just felt that was very, assuming people are following us from the wrestling world over here, felt very John Cena move. Very noble, very I'm gonna pick the best of the best. I'm gonna test my abilities against the best
punk
people
girl
here.
going for the John Cena move.
But I respect it. I mean, he wasn't doing it wearing jorts and that's defeating the entire Nexus.
No, Andrew would not be caught dead in a pair of jorts.
No way. Which I respect about him too.
That's true.
But I really liked that. I really liked that move. I respected it.
So that was the one that was the stuff you would find at a party. And that was where he won with the solo cups. Nina had a bowl of chips, and Johnny had the party hat that he made, and then he put the little pom-poms around the bottom. But like in the last minute of the thing, like, okay, everybody, you got 5 minutes left. Because remember, it's 8 hours of doing this. You got like 5 minutes left. The pom-poms fell off the hat. Like, because the whatever edible glue he was using wasn't working. And so he had to like move other pom-poms around to the front because you can't see it from where they were. But
in a tiebreaker, that's going to kill you.
Anyway, Andrew won again. So he got himself a spot in another one.
And the solo cups, the thing that was so smart was he used a real solo cup mold to make the recycling logo. He
molded an actual solo cup.
Smart.
And so it actually had the recycling logo in the cake, which is what sealed it for him with the judges. Which was pretty awesome. Then there was the garage sale one, which is like 3 new bakers will try and do each other. And that was Hey Moo. That was the toy one. That was the April. Oh, that was the duck decoy, like that you would use to like fool ducks into landing on a lake so you can shoot them.
That was nuts.
And then there was a tackle box, and the bowling pin, because old Steve thought he was going to be clever and do the bowling pin one because that's super easy. And then he just took his sweet ass time and he screwed it up. He made a big mistake. He oiled, like he wanted to make it into a mold, but he couldn't make it. The mold would have been too big to do all the bowling pin. So he had to do it in 2 halves, the top of the bowling pin and the bottom of a bowling pin. but the bottom of the bowling pin, he actually molded the wrong bowling pin. Like, he was supposed to oil the outside of one of the bowling pins so when it goes into the mold, you can easily take it out. But he oiled one bowling pin, but molded a different one. So then it took him forever to extrude the bowling pin from the mold. And it screwed him up so bad he was unable to recover. And honestly, the bowling pin cake, that super type A, maybe I'm just secretly angry at my dad, Steve, made this bowling pin cake. It was the worst looking cake anybody made in the entire show.
process, yeah.
It
And
was
I was kind of glad
lopsided.
about it.
It did not look good at all because he decided, oh, this will be easy. I won't even have to. Like, I thought, I wanted to see, honestly. I thought Steve was going to be the guy to do it. There are 8 hours. I only need 6.5. And actually, just the guy being done with his cake and going to sit in the peanut gallery because he was done early, because that's all I needed to do. I picked the easiest one of these things to make. I made it. It's perfect. I'm done. But every one of them was working right down to the wire, especially like Steve making this bum-ass, broke-ass bowling pin cake that looked like I made it. It was terrible.
It was bad. It was the only one that I was like, definitively, that is cake.
Yeah.
It is, by the way, like, it is, I can't emphasize enough how incredible and how often I was wrong, like, seeing, like, it is nuts how realistic they are when they're in there with the decoys. Like,
yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times the judges would get it down to like 2 and then pick the wrong one, which was fun.
Yeah.
But it's nuts. Like, when you say that was the worst one, it's like by a country mile, because the other ones, it was just like, if I hadn't seen them baking, I wouldn't have known what the hell one it was. But that was the only one that I was like, I know for sure.
Yeah. So April made the mallard, the duck decoy thing, and she did a fantastic job on it. Like, it was indistinguishable from the other ones. But they were able to pick out Justin's tackle box. But I felt like that was sad because they were like, it's either this one, or this one. Pick one. And one of the judges was like, just happened to pick
7
his.
or whatever. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's too bad for Justin, because like,
he
did a really good job with his tackle box. And they could have easily picked one of the other ones, which weren't cake, but they picked his, which was cake. And that obviously saw right through Steve's bum-ass, broke-ass bowling pin cake. And so April won. She got to move on to the final one. And the final episode of his regular 3 people were the toys.
Oh my
and
God, so good.
Haymu sculpted a perfect-looking elephant and somehow put cake into it. Like, I still can't believe she did that in 8 hours. That was amazing. And Desiree, who we hadn't talked about yet, was this Latina who was doing it for her daughter, and she was really sweet. But every time the judges found her work, which I thought was like, that wasn't indicative of how good. Like, her rubber ducky cake looked like a straight up rubber ducky. Like, I could not believe the judges were like, that's the cake. And I was like, how are you picking that so obviously? That did not look like cake. But so she got found out. And Sam did a chess set. And she did a really great job with that chess set. And the judges couldn't figure it out. So it came down to her or the elephant. And they picked Haymu for the elephant because the detail of the elephant was just so good. They actually liked Sam's cake more. Like,
the taste of it, yeah.
That was the strawberry Pop-Tart cake. And I was like, of course you liked it. It sounds delicious.
I also psychologically could never wrap my head around, like, I'm eating a chess set.
Yeah.
Like, when it's that realistic looking, I don't think my brain would be able to comprehend. And like, when the flavors don't match I don't know what you would think a chess set looks like, but strawberry Pop-Tart ain't it. You know what I mean? I would have thought chocolate or vanilla or something.
Yeah. Like, one of those, where the buttercream in the middle of the layers of cake like has like espresso in it or something. Like,
Yeah, like
no.
that's what a chess
Yeah,
set would taste
yeah,
like for some
exactly.
reason.
So Heimu makes it in, April makes it in, and Andrew makes it into the finals. And in the finals, everyone gets to pick another baker who's not in the finals to be their assistant.
They're henchmen.
Yeah. And they can pick whatever they want to do, which I thought was really kind of cool. And actually, I really wish that we had gotten to see everybody else pick whatever they wanted to do.
Because it's like the full extent of their capabilities,
Exactly.
I feel like.
Yeah. So Heimu sculpted a full-on like Greek bust, like a statue, with like it looked amazing. I have no idea how the judges picked it. The judges just straight up like, that's cake. I'm like,
how did you know
they
that?
look indistinguishable to me from all the decoys. Like, she did a fantastic job sculpting. It looked so realistic. And then April did an old sewing machine, which had like the dials were edible, but you could turn the dials on the cake. It was crazy. That was one where the cake wall spun around and there were all sewing machines, and all the judges were like, hold on, what's happened? Is there a witch here? There's no way none of these. There's none of these.
There's no way one of these is cake.
I like that a lot. But they couldn't figure it out, so she moves on to possibly win it, and becomes down to her and Andrew. Andrew made an old suitcase, and it was kind of cool. It had all these pictures on it. The stickers you would get from going like an old steamer trunk type suitcase with like clothes hanging out of it, and the clothes are all edible. And it was just beautiful. Like, it was beautifully distressed and looked super old. All the leather was amazing. He did all the stitching on it too. It was so beautiful.
That was one too that I'm like, that was a good example of like something that could be so simple that you could easily give something away, because it's like just a little scratch or whatever. It's all out the window.
The handle, the handle of the suitcase could be all wrong, and that would be enough.
That's it.
But the other thing I thought was a cool little window into who he was. Is the reason he wanted to do it is because he loves to travel, and he travels with his husband all the time, and like all the places from his passport are all tattooed on his forearms. I'm like, that's like, I'm not a tattoo person, but like, it's only because I don't have anything cool enough to tattoo on myself. Like, these are all of the countries I visited all over my forearms.
That was really cool.
And I thought that was really, really cool. Oh, and we should say, I guess, I liked that Heimu picked Desiree to be her.
Yeah.
Because she hadn't really gotten a chance to show what she could really do, and she did help a lot with the bust. And then April picked Nina, who's like super into details, and that helped with that. And then Andrew picked Johnny because they became really good friends. So I thought that was a kind of cool thing. Hey, my best friend Johnny, come help me. Yeah. And that was so sweet. And he helped. Johnny did all of the fabric stuff hanging out of the thing, which totally fooled all the judges. They're like, that can't be cake, because look, there's clothes hanging out of it. That can't be cake. And it was cake. So anyway, it came down to him, to Andrew and April. And Andrew, he didn't cheat, but again, there's no rules against it. So one half of the suitcase was one type of cake, and the other half of the suitcase was a different type of cake. And one of the judges loved one half of the cake, and another judges loved the other half of the cake. And all of them could agree that looks like a goddamn suitcase.
Yeah.
So that's the reason he was able to win, was because one judge loved half the cake, the other one loved the other. Half the cake was like a baklava.
Yeah.
Cake, and the other one was cookie dough or something.
The insane thing to me with the baklava was like
tiramisu. That was the other half.
Yeah, but like tiramisu is textured in itself. in a way.
Right.
So I was just like, I don't know. I can't draw a stick figure. So
No.
like I was so I found the artistry of being able to execute it so interesting, and then the ability, like you said, like the artistry and the deception is like so insane.
Yeah.
I just, my God, like
Yeah.
the skill level.
Um, so they ended up picking Andrew to win. And he gave like a little speech, I guess. But one thing I did was like, he's like, I've always been the weirdo. I feel like nobody takes me seriously, and to come here with all of you who are all so good at this, like it feels amazing to be like to win this because like people take me seriously now, and like that's a really sweet thing. Like as much of an oddball as he is, you could tell like there's a really good heart in there, and
For
like
sure. That was, this is,
yeah.
yeah, that was kind of what won me over.
So I honestly like honestly, if it's just like, hey, you baked a cake, it's a good cake. Like I can't watch shows like that because I can't taste the cake. You
I
know what I mean?
know,
So,
yes.
but I can see with my eyes the artistry of building the cake. So like this worked for me. Like Iron Chef, all these other things are like, hey, some of them are like, hey, here's this crazy ingredient, make something with it. I'm like, sometimes that can be entertaining.
That can be cool, but I'm
But
with
like
you when I
most,
can't taste it. It's
no,
kind of
like
like,
if the only thing you're doing is making a dish that I can't taste, so I don't know what it's like.
it's blue
Like I
balls.
can't, I can't, I can't get into it because I can't vouch. All these judges could be lying. I don't know if your souffle is up to snuff because they could all be lying to me. I don't know, but I'm watching this and I can tell with my eyes that shit does not look like cake, but it
Yeah.
is cake. That's artistry that I feel like I can actually judge, and that's why to me this worked on that level specifically, because of being able to like I felt like he is as a layperson who like all these people I think pretty much like they all have businesses. This is what they do. Like
Yes.
even the kid, the high schooler, is opening up his own business to do this,
Which is like
which is amazing.
so nuts. Yeah.
But like that's what they do for a living. So the layperson is the person who comes to them and says, I need you to make a cake that looks like this for my daughter's birthday or whatever. And that's who you have to fool. Just like me. I could be a guest at that birthday party going, there's no way that thing is not a suitcase. Like, or whatever. And so that's why I feel like I can be an informed judge by being ill-informed as a person, and that's why I think the show works. Is that you don't need to be an expert in anything to be able to like judge for yourself whether or not you think they are successful at what they're doing, which I think is the secret sauce that makes the show work.
You just have to be able to see objects. That's literally it. Yeah.
That is it.
Which is
Yes.
kind of fun.
And to also know what objects look like.
Correct.
If you are not familiar with what a rubber ducky looks like outside of this competition, you won't be able to judge.
Great.
But I feel like you should know what a rubber ducky looks like.
So, well, now I feel like I know the answer to this question, but it brings me great joy because, Alex, are you keeping it or are you getting the flick out of here?
I'm going to keep this one. However, this might be the only competition show of its kind that I would keep because, as I said, so many of them require you yourself to be an expert in something or to trust the expertise of the judges, even though you have no idea of what it, like this works because of the nature of it. So like this show I'm keeping. All other shows like it, I'd probably go, get the flick out of here. I am keeping. You?
I think that means it's in high regard.
Yeah.
Then.
What and you?
I am keeping for all of the reasons you said, but also it's such perfect. It's so lighthearted and fun, and it's
It
good.
really is. The tone of the show is really, really sweet.
It is. It's like
Sweet, like sugar, a
like
major
cake.
ingredient in cake.
Which I loved. Like you said, like there was no like mega asshole. Like everybody was
No,
kind
there
of rooting
wasn't.
for each other.
Yeah.
Like I think that probably comes from them having their own businesses doing
Yeah.
this. Like, but it's also, this is a great, what I have friends that call it like wallpaper television or whatever, like that you could just have it on in the background and not like it's the right level of mindless where like you're kind of emotionally invested, but you could be doing other stuff while this is going on, and until like that was very nice about it, of like I cared, but like I could also like,
this is an easy thing you could put on in the mid-morning of a Saturday while you're doing stuff around the house.
Yes.
Come back in the living room and go, there's no way that's cake. Yes. And then go back into the kitchen and do some dishes or whatever, come back on. And and you have no idea, you realize by the end, 8 episodes have just played back to back to back to back. And by the 8th episode, you're sitting there watching, breathless, wanting to see who wins $50,000 for how they made a cake so fake.
That's a really perfectly said. How'd they make cake so fake?
How'd they make that cake so fake? How'd they fake everybody out with that cake?
So this was a fun one. This was fun.
This was fun. Honestly, I did not think I would enjoy it nearly so much.
I didn't think you would watch the whole thing. I thought you would watch a couple episodes and be like, I got the gist. Yeah. But again, it's an easy watch, so why not?
Right, exactly. So yeah, this is the second episode of Get the flick
out of here.
And now I guess we'll have to figure out on our own what the heck we're gonna do going forward. But yeah, so far I think it's going well. People seem to enjoy it.
We got some good feedback last
time. And we'll be back same cake time, same cake channel, but just not about cake.
Likely
not about cake. Almost certainly not about cake, but yes. Kate, where can the people find you to see your thoughts about things other than cake?
I mean, it's mostly about wrestling. And assuming that I'm back at social media after this break, you can find me at Miss Kate Fabe on Twitter. You can find me at Katestagrams on Instagram. You can also find me at Miss Kate Fabe on TikTok if you are into the TikTok, which I love. And yeah, you can also find me at the Mark Order Podcast if you're an AEW fan, and on Fightful YouTube every Tuesday and Friday.
Yes, you can find me on the Twitter at Alex Sourgraps. Not usually tweeting about cake, mostly about professional wrestling, because that's somehow we were doing a show over there, and Jimmy Van said, "Hey, come talk not about this."
Which is refreshing, to be honest.
It honestly is nice to not talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, there's lots. If for some reason you like me enough to watch me talk about other things other than this, there are other places for you to do that over on Fightful and all of its subsidiaries. But this was a fun second episode of Get the Flick Out of Here. And now we'll figure out what we're going to do next time. It'll be a surprise, much like a surprise of if it is or is not cake. There you go.
There it is.
Have fun, everybody. We'll see you next week. And now we'll tell you next week whether or not we want that subject to get the flick out of here.
RESPECT. Click the subscribe button and find out what it means to me. Nah, that doesn't have a ring to it. But if you like videos about real news stories that are funny, stupid, or weird, subscribe now.